Hey y'all, today what I am going to be doing is I'm going to be showing you all of the books that have been sitting on my nightstand. I thought this would be an interesting video because all of these books are on my nightstand for a reason. And if you are like me, I am quite nosy. I'm a very curious person, especially when it comes to books and where books live and how things are organized. And let me tell you, you might learn a thing or two about me through this video. So, if you are new here, then welcome. You got a slight brief on what I'm about. I'm a very curious reader who loves books. And if you are interested in joining the conversation and being around someone who loves books and reading in some form or another, then I would encourage you to subscribe and stick around. Did I say my name was Shelly? Well, regardless, my name is Shelly, which you probably get from the title of my channel, my channel's name. Anyhow, I'm losing the thread, but let's go ahead and get into the meat of this video. So here's what happens with my nightstand. I have this long rectangular nightstand that has two tiers. It has the top layer and the bottom layer, and it should be layer, like a dragon's lair, because it's like my treasure is sitting on my nightstand. But no, there are two layers to my nightstand, or two shelving spots. And so what happens is that books get cluttered there. I put them there, like most recently, books have been set there because I didn't know where to put some books that were cluttering my guest room. And this past month we had a guest, or rather in January we had a guest. And so, you know, as I'm like, oh shoot, I don't know where things should go, I just kind of tuck things on my nightstand and then don't think about it. Also, my nightstand is the home of books that I've picked up and started reading the first couple of pages, books that are top of mind. And so it's a little bit of a peek into my thinking, my book process, you know, if you want to call it, like what I'm thinking about picking up, what I've thought about reading, but maybe set aside. Little snippets that I have read, like poems I've read recently, but wouldn't warrant a whole segment on my channel. And so that's really what this video is. It's like the books that the books that I have been interacting with most recently for one reason or another. And I will give you those reasons as I go through. So, okay, let's start. The first book, Lisa Kleypas' Cold-Hearted Rake. I was thinking about participating in Garb August 1.5 Wasted Weekend, the mastermind of the Criminale here on BookTube, and I had thought about picking up a romance because that's as trashy as I get typically here on this channel. And then I realized that Wasted Weekend is on the 4th and 5th, so it's this weekend that I'm living now. And this weekend I had other reading plans and I didn't want to put off my other reading plans to pick up Cold-Hearted Rake. I did read the first page of this and I was instantly delighted by the witty banter that I discovered on the first page, and I was excited to read it. I just don't have time to read it right now. Next up, I have The Persian Boy. The Persian Boy. I don't know what came out of my mouth, but I have The Persian Boy by Mary Renaud, by Mary Renaud. I heard it pronounced correctly, Renaud's last name pronounced correctly on Jennifer Brooks's channel because she has recently read the first book in this series. I decided to go off the rails. I discarded the first book in the series and I started with the second book, and I'm reading this now. However, I'm not reading this very quickly, The Persian Boy, because I'm just fitting it in the cracks between other reads. So I'm getting to this kind of sporadically, although I am enjoying it. Mary Renaud's writing is really beautiful and the story is fantastic. I just haven't set aside the time to really like dig in and just plow through and finish the book. which is okay. So this has been sitting on my nightstand for a reason, for that very reason. A book that I wanted to reread recently was Eve Bunting's I Am the Mummy Hebnifert, and it is illustrated by David Christiana. And this tells the story from the perspective of a mummy. This is a picture book, and it tells the story of Hebnifert from the perspective of the mummy and her life and what it is like to have once lived as someone who was quite the beauty. And it is her tale. It's a beautiful book, and I'm sure I'll actually include it in my wrap-up sometime soon. But this is, I read it in bed, which is why this was living on my lovely nightstand. I'm going to quickly go through my notebooks next, because they somehow gather. They have a little party on my nightstand. I don't know how this happens. Well, I'm sure it's me, but somehow I have a lot of notebooks. All right, so you ready? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, a drawing notebook, so 5, and another drawing or sketch notebook, 6. 6 notebooks. Okay, you would think that I would have enough, right? Let's do my recently acquired book. And the first book is from my sweet dad. He mailed it to me recently, and he said I would love it. And it is The Long Walk by Slavomir Rokowitz. Oh my gracious. Anyways, it is, I believe, the true story set in 1941 about, or the true story of that was first taken place. Let me tell you. Let me just read you what this is all about, then we'll learn together. In 1941, the author and 6 fellow prisoners escaped a Soviet labor camp, a camp where surviving hunger, cold, untended wounds, and untreated illnesses, and avoiding daily executions were everyday feats. Their trek over thousands of miles by foot out of Siberia and through China, the Gobi Desert, Tibet, and over the Himalayas to British India was a remarkable journey. Oh, so it's going to be their journey, escaping this labor camp and going on what sounds like quite the harrowing journey. My dad cheekily said this was a page turner. I recently purchased with some Christmas money The Last Samurai by Helen DeWitt. There was the series going around recently of the best contemporary classics. We're not getting into that name, but it started at Katie Books' channel. Steve Donahue did a response, and in his response, he included Helen DeWitt's The Last Samurai and said it was an incredible read, just really tight. And so I was like, I love a really well executed book, so let me just pick this up. And I have plans to read it, I think, in March. I am not abusing books over here, okay? The next book I should have talked about in January, but I'm getting to it now. So here it is. It is actually the publisher sent me this gorgeous hardback, and it is Finding Elevation. This is going to be, the subtitle is Fear and Courage on the World's Most Dangerous Mountain. This is, I believe, going to be for fans of Cheryl Strayed's Wild, and it is no secret that I adore Cheryl Strayed's Wild. So Lisa Thompson climbs the second highest mountain, and it is an Our Girl Friday book production. It's from That Imprint, which is a very, very small indie press, and I've heard really good things about it. It's already been well received and well reviewed, and I cannot wait to dig in. By the way, this is a nonfiction book. It's a nonfiction book of Lisa Thompson's journey. I figured that might have not have been clear through my earlier description. But anyhow, the media company, the Imprint, the publishing house, what am I trying to say? The publishing house reached out to me and wanted to send me this, and I, graciously agreed. And so I'm so glad to have this in my hands and in my collection. Another book that I bought with Christmas money is actually going to be The American People, Volume 2, The Brutality of Fact. And this is by Larry Kramer, clearly a novel. And I bought this, again, as a recommendation from Steve Donahue. This is going to be about the 1980s AIDS crisis that really affected gay men, both physically and spiritually and emotionally, the way that they were treated during that time. I don't know much about it, but I heard it was fantastic, and actually Steve is blurbed on the back. What? 2 books I will briefly talk about, but they are going to be showing up in my tops and flops with Fraser Simons at the channel Springboard Thought. If those videos are up already, I will leave them linked down below. But there is The Warden by Anthony Trollope and Spinning by Tilly Walden. 2 poetry books that I have picked up, one of which I am reading in earnest. And the one that I'm reading in earnest is Moist Sand and Gravel by Paul Muldoon, sitting on my nightstand because I'm actually reading it. And then one that I started to read and then set aside because I was reading too many books at once, and it is Marianne Moore's Observations, which is actually really, really good. I was really impressed with the poems that I did read in here, but I'm going to wait until I'm reading a fewer books rather, before I pick this up again. Speaking of poetry, another poetry book that I want to read sooner rather than later is Louise Gluck, The Wild Iris, which was lent to me. A friend of my husband's found out that I read poetry on occasion and lent me a few books, and this is the one that stuck out the most. And so I want to read this so I can return it back to the friend, because this is not mine. It's a lent copy to me. As I've been going through quite a bit of change, I wanted to read something that I found comforting, and so I picked up some Mary Oliver, her book Upstream, which I started a while ago, I think back in August of 2022, set aside for other reads, and have been meaning to get back to. And it was really nice to read an essay, because these are all essays. Yes, a collection of essays. So I read a essay while I was sort of feeling my feelings, and it was really nice to be comforted by Mary Oliver's words. One of you folks in my comments a while back mentioned this book, and I was like, oh yeah, I want to read this. Or maybe they mentioned the author. I honestly cannot remember. Maybe it was Michael Clark. I'm not sure, but Jacqueline Woodson's Red at the Bone, which Woodson writes picture books, middle grade books. She is a fantastic writer, I've mostly, if not only, have consumed her picture books, but I have this middle grade book, and so I had thought about picking it up and reading it. I did indeed. I read the first couple of pages and then I didn't continue. I just, again, kind of got busy with other reads. That story, that narrative continues with Susanna Dunn's The Sixth Queen, which is a Tudor Queen book. Susanna Dunn writes about the wives of King Henry VIII, and this is about his 6th wife. It's called The Sixth Wife, not The Sixth Queen. I don't know what I said. I don't remember what I said, but it's called The Sixth Wife. I read about half of this a while ago in between other reads, and then I set it aside, and then I picked it up recently and I could not remember what was going on. And it was like at a very exciting part, and I was like, I think I need to reread this, which I don't mind. I was enjoying it. I remember I was enjoying it. I truly cannot remember what was going on, which tells you that I probably read it and I wasn't paying attention. And anyway, so I really need to just reread this. We have 4 books left. Yay! I know, so many books fit on my nightstand. It gets crazy up in there, but that's okay. So, a book that I had thought about reading and then decided to slowly back away from was And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. I have like 6 or 7 Agatha Christie books in this vintage copy. I love them, these little vintage paperbacks. And I was like, I'm finally gonna read Agatha Christie, and then it didn't happen. So that's what happened with Agatha Christie, and the same thing happened with Vita Nostra. So back in December, I was really excited about like fantasy books, SSF, science fiction fantasy books, and this was an option for December, and it's been living on my nightstand ever since. And then I don't know why I have this. I read this in college. Don't ask me what it's about. I have no idea. I see my notes in it. This is my notes, and I don't remember a single thing. And it is Pedro Palermo by Juan Rolfo. oh my gosh, I'm butchering this. I'm sure if I said it, if I had practiced it, it would have come out more eloquently, but I didn't. But anyways, this is a very slim, this is the version that I had in college. I mean, college was a long time ago for me, so I'm not surprised that I don't remember anything, but I'm sure I was talking to somebody at some point about this book, and it went on my nightstand, and I forgot about it, and it was buried under a stack of other books. And then finally, a book that I didn't even remember that I owned. It was on the nightstand before the nightstand was moved to my room. And it was buried under a pile of notebooks, I think. And so I'm glad I found it. But it is Little Pictures of Japan, my travel ship, which is this large, beautiful vintage book. And let's see, oh gosh, look at these end papers. That is beautiful. So it is edited by Olive Miller, and the pictures are by Catherine Sturgis. And it looks like there are little poems and beautiful artwork to accompany the poems. So I will have to dig into this to see what this is all about, but a book that I didn't even realize was on my nightstand because I hadn't looked for it. I just, like, if you were like, Shelly, I will give you $1 million to name all the books on your nightstand, I think that I could have named at least most of these. This one would have lost me the money. I have no memory of it. It's not good. That's not good. Okay. All right. This is the last book. So now I have fully given you a nightstand tour. I'm going to put these books in their proper homes and keep the books that I'm currently reading or, you know, very, very interested in looking at. Maybe a couple of poetry books. But otherwise, I'm going to put these in their proper place, okay? I'm going to put them in their proper place and move forward. But yeah, that's it for me. So thank you so much for watching. What lives on your nightstand currently? Tell me. You know, you don't have to name all of your books if it's as many as me, but one book would be nice. I feel like I'm in it with some other people who have just books toppling over their nightstands. Gracious me. Okay, well that's it for me. This time, that is it for me. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I really appreciate it, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye, guys.